The silence that morning in feudal Japan held a different weight, a cold promise gripping your spine before the first pale strip of dawn breached the horizon. You woke with the chill of the tatami pressing firm against your back, its woven straw texture crisp beneath your skin, anchoring you to a world suspended between shadow and light. The small wooden hut breathed softly around you, creaking slightly in the damp air, as if reluctant to disturb the heavy quiet that settled over the village like a thick gray shroud. Outside, the brittle scent of burnt wood tangled with the moisture clinging to the earth, a somber perfume that seeped through the cracks and into your bones. A distant flute whispered through the cold air, its lonely notes drifting over the mud-slick paths where villagers shuffled with measured steps. Each footfall sent faint splashes from puddles, the wet earth cool under their sandals. You felt the subtle tremor in your hand holding the worn hilt of the cursed katana, its lacquer dull beneath your restless fingers. The blade's curse was a murmur from the dark, a fragile thread of sound only your ears could perceive, threading through your nerves like an unseen breath. If now, in the world you once would call future, a phone dying for lack of battery could send a shiver of frustration through your chest, imagine instead the invisible weight of a blade that never sleeps, whose whispers crawl beneath your skin. You unfurled your fingers along the cold leather sheath, the faded fabric rough and grainy, like the skin of the old trees outside. The ritual that tethered you to the moment was slow and unyielding. You traced the blade's edge with careful, deliberate motions, polished cloth sweeping the steel until the faint glint caught the dull morning light. The faint warmth of tea slipped between your palms, a brief spark of comfort against the pervasive chill. The cup's ceramic surface was cool but steady, grounding you as you drew in a slow, deliberate breath. For a moment, the day held a fragile hope, but the village held its breath too. The usual symphony of life, the chatter, the laughter, the bustling, faltered as the distant animals stilled. A hush deepened, pressing in like the gathering fog. Your eyes glimpsed a quick exchange between two neighbors, their glances drawing shadows tighter around your heart. And then, just as you prepared to rise, the muffled sound of a door creaking open somewhere beyond froze you in place. The whispers grew colder, sharper, not quite words, but worse than silence. The day was no longer just another endless watch. Ei, antes que Morfeu te pegue de vez, dá uma conferida rápida se você continua inscrito. Para alguns, o botão sumiu e eu não quero que você perca as próximas histórias para dormir. Aproveita e deixa um like macio como um travesseiro. Me conta nos comentários de onde você nos ouve e que horas são aí. Sua interação mantém este cantinho de calma vivo. Valeu por fazer parte. You remain motionless, the faint creak of the door pressing against your senses like a slow, deliberate knock. The weight of the cursed katana in your hand grounds you further into the quiet, each pulse of its whispered breath, a reminder that you are yet tied to the shadows that linger here. The air around you hangs thick, dampened by the early morning mist curling into the hut through cracks in the wood. You can feel the cold seeping into your muscles, slow and insidious, tugging at your resolve. Outside, the soft murmur of the village is gone. Even the animals have silenced their cries, as if the world itself holds its breath. Your eyes adjust to the faint glow creeping through the rice paper window, where the light bends weakly, filtering through the lattice in delicate patterns. The faint scent of damp earth and smoldering ash trickles inside, wrapping around you like a thread of smoke, elusive and heavy. You move deliberately, sliding the katana back into its sheath with a muted whisper of leather. Every small sound seems magnified, the soft scrape of leather against wood, the faint rustle of your kimono shifting with your careful steps. Your feet press against the cold tatami, the woven texture, a quiet comfort beneath the soles of your sandals, steady and unyielding. You find yourself drawn to the door you froze beside, fingers resting lightly on the aged wood. The grain is rough beneath your touch, splintered in places like the fractured thoughts crossing your mind. Stepping outside, the chill wraps around you like a shroud, folding the morning silence ever tighter. You breathe in slowly, tasting the sharp edge of frost mingled with the lingering smoke of last night's fire. The pale sun hasn't yet risen fully. Only hints of orange and gray sketch the horizon, and the world feels perched on the edge of something unseen, a precipice just beyond the veil of daylight. Your steps are measured and careful, toes balancing on wet stones, slick with moss that glistens faintly, as if still holding the secrets of the night. Each footfall upsetting the stillness, sending tiny splashes into the shallow puddles coated with a thin film of frozen mist. The air feels heavier with each breath, a slow and persistent pressure that nestles behind your ribs. You pass by the faces of the village's few early risers, eyes downcast, movements subdued, as if burdened by a quiet dread, sharing the same unspoken language you have learned too well. Their shadows flicker briefly beneath the low eaves, betraying the tension frozen beneath their faint murmurs, half heard and quickly swallowed by the creeping haze. Ahead lies the narrow lane, bordered by weathered wooden fences and fading banners hanging limply in the still air. The fabric's once vibrant reds and blues have faded to muted bruises of color, tattered by years of wind and rain. The scent of old paper and incense lingers faintly, weaving around the remnants of a twilight ritual long since ended. You pause before a small well, the stone lip damp and slick beneath your fingers as you rest your hand upon it. The water, dark and still, reflects the fragile light of dawn in a wavering mirror, disturbed only by a slow drip from the wooden bucket tethered to a frayed rope. The sound is singular, rhythmically steady, echoing softly into the cold emptiness, like a heartbeat lost between worlds. The pressure in your chest tightens. You close your eyes briefly, feeling the faint pulse in your fingers as the katana hums low against your side. Constant, restless, waiting. You remind yourself that the blade is both curse and companion, a silent guardian weaving through your nerves in the absence of sound. Slowly, your gaze follows the path that winds toward the edge of the village, where a dense forest stands like a dark sea, branches heavy and tangled, whispering secrets just out of reach. The ancient trees loom, their gnarled limbs bare against the softening light, casting long skeletal shadows that lean forward as if to grasp you. You move again, each step measured, sinking toes into the wet soil at the path's edge. The cold earth tastes faintly of moss and decomposing leaves, a bitter sweetness beneath your sandals. The forest breathes a low, hollow sigh through the rustling canopy high. Above, leaves trembling with a slow, unseen pulse. The cursed katana hums louder now, a thread pulled taut, weaving tension through your flesh. You feel it beneath your skin, a slow heat rising just below the surface, mingled with the chill settling in your bones. The blade's whisper crescendos into a fragile thread of sound, weaving around your nerves, pulling your senses taut. A single, near-silent crack echoes somewhere within the trees. The snap of a twig, cracked beneath some cautious weight, and your body stiffens. The hairs along your neck rise as your eyes pierce the gloom, searching the heavy shadows for movement. The forest does not respond. Instead, it deepens, drawing you closer with a silent, unspeakable allure. Despite the restless tension clawing at your skin, you feel an odd flicker of calm. A narrow beam of sunlight breaks through the dense canopy, illuminating the pattern of moss creeping over a fallen log. The green is vibrant in the morning haze, a soft splash of life amid the muted palette of browns and grays. You reach out, fingers brushing the cool, damp surface, grounding yourself in the texture of the world. Your breath slows. The katana's murmur softens, folding into the quiet as the path ahead narrows and twists between ancient trunks. The forest seems to breathe with you then, slow, deliberate, patient. But as you step forward, a faint rustle reaches your ear again, closer this time. Something moves just beyond the edge of sight. The shadow shifts. Your heart catches, poised on the edge of something you cannot yet name. And suddenly, the blade's whisper becomes a sharp, chilling note, slicing through the silence with a cruel certainty that turns the fragile hope of dawn into a fragile thread, waiting to snap. You freeze, the sudden sharpness in the katana's whisper slicing through the quiet that had draped over the village like a heavy cloak. Your breath catches, shallow and measured, as your eyes narrow into the shifting shadows between the ancient trunks. The forest seems to draw a slow, deliberate breath alongside you. The pause before a storm no one sees, but everyone senses. Your feet find the soft earth beneath the fading light, the cold moss cushioning each careful step. The branch that cracked echoes faintly in your mind's ear, lingering like the soft echo of a bell long after it has been struck. You hold still, senses stretched taut. The air presses against your skin, damp and thick, with the scent of pine and earth, tangled with a lingering thread of smoke that threads through the dawn like a remembered sigh. You feel the katana respond beneath your grip, its pulse shaking gently, a cold heat weaving beneath your skin that pools slowly through your veins. The blade's curse is a presence, patient and insistent, guided by your every movement. Ahead, the trees lean closer, gnarled and ancient, their shadows twisting into shapes that almost breathe. You resist the urge to shudder, focusing instead on the slow, methodical pattern of your steps, each one a quiet footprint written in the softened earth. Your sandals touch the ground lightly, pushing aside fallen leaves that crackle with dry resistance, their brittle edges whispering secrets as they yield. A breath escapes you, slow and deliberate, as your fingers brush the leathery sheath. The rough fabric is cool beneath your skin, grounding you to the moment, anchoring your spiraling thoughts. You pull the blade free with a muted sigh, the steel catching the faint light as you raise it just enough to see the delicate, almost imperceptible runes etched along its length. The cold metal presses an unfamiliar weight into your palm, familiar and foreign all at once. It hums softly, a lullaby in a language older than the forest. Behind you, the murmur of the village fades into a distant memory. The fog curls around the base of the trees, a soft white cloak that muffles sound and blurs shapes. You feel the pull of the woods, a quiet insistence that coils beneath your ribs, urging you onward despite the chill biting at your skin. The path ahead narrows, shadowed by branches heavy with moisture, leaves slick with dew that drip faintly, each droplet a tiny sound in the silent symphony of dawn. You step forward, careful, feeling the earth yield underfoot and release a faint, musty scent of moss and decay. The air tastes sharp and cold as it fills your lungs, sharp like steel's edge, stirring something deep within your chest. A flicker of movement shifts beside a fallen trunk, barely more than a shadow, a breath of motion that stops as your gaze lops onto it. Your heartbeat ticks slowly in your ears, steady and low, synchronizing with the katana's trembling hum. The forest holds its breath with you. A cicada's distant drone hums through the canopy, a faint thread of sound woven into the stillness. The rising sun slices through the fog, casting fractured shards of golden light that scatter across your path. The damp leaves catch the rays and glitter softly, a delicate sparkle that interrupts the grayness with sudden warmth. You lower the blade slightly and press a hand to the bark of a towering cedar, its rough surface cool and reassuring beneath your palm. The ancient tree seems to reach downward, roots entwining the earth in a slow, steady heartbeat. You draw in a long breath, the smell of resin and wet wood filling your senses. The forest is a living thing, patient and enduring, and despite the unease clinging to your skin, a faint calm nestles into your bones. But the katana's murmur deepens again, a thread pulled taut, unyielding and sharp. You clutch the hilt as a whisper of movement flickers in the corner of your eye, leaves shaking gently, as if brushed by a hidden presence. A shadow shifts just beyond the path, darker and more solid than the rest. You hold your ground, muscles coiled beneath your kimono. The chill threads through you, but beneath it, a steady warmth pulses. The promise of strength held close like a secret. Your gaze slices through the interplay of light and shadow, eyes searching the dense brush where the dark hides. A faint scent, iron and something acrid, drifts on the breeze, subtle and unsettling. Your fingers tighten on the katana's hilt, the sword's cool steel grounding your racing pulse. The forest grows still again, the tension folded between the trees like an unspoken warning. You take another slow, deliberate breath, letting the cold air fill your lungs and steady your thoughts. The morning light shifts, flickering like a candle's flame disturbed by a silent breath. Your footsteps press quieter into the earth, the sound of your presence carried lightly on the frosted ground. You press forward, senses sharpened by the blade's restless song, weaving through the umbra of the forest, where the branches knit a tapestry of shadow and light. Every leaf, every branch holds a story, whispered and fragmented, that tugs at the edges of your awareness. Then, just as the path twists unexpectedly to the left, a vivid glint catches your eye. A glint not from the katana, but from deeper within the shadows, sharp and quick, like a glimpse of something you should not see. Your breath hitches, the snow-white mist thickens, and you realize the village's silence was never empty. It was waiting. And it is watching you, as you step toward whatever lurks just beyond the fragile veil of dawn. You freeze, the pulse of the katana quickening beneath your grip like a heartbeat, synchronizing with the forest's own breath. The faint rustle of leaves shifts again near the broken trunk, soft and deliberate, a whisper of movement caught just beyond your sight. The chill crawling through your skin tightens, threading through your muscles as you stand poised on the cusp of something unseen. A silent threshold, neither retreat nor advance dares cross without consequence. Your eyes scan the gloom, tracing the sparse shafts of golden light piercing the mist. Each sunbeam seems hesitant, fragile against the dense fingers of shadow curling beneath the cedar's ancient limbs. The damp earth smells deeper here, a thick musk of decay and resin. Sound is magnified, the faint drip of dew from a leaf's serrated edge, the scratch of bark against bark, the distant hollow echo of a woodpecker's slow rhythm, far beyond the reach of your hearing. You step slowly forward. The weight of the cursed blade presses lightly against your side, a constant hum threading beneath your skin, a companion in the silence. Each footfall sinks slightly into the yielding moss, releasing the damp, earthborn aroma into the crisp morning air. A faint quiver passes through the atmosphere, almost like the shiver of a held breath, and you find your own breath slowing to match, inhaling the icy clarity that draws the veil tighter between night and day. Between the bare branches above, scattered patches of pale sky show through, a soft gradient of dawn's lingering gray and tentative blue. You feel the forest's silent watch, an ancient patience bending towards you with a memory as dense as the soil, entwined around gnarled roots. The tangled brush whispers in a quiet tongue, weaving around your senses like smoke slipping through cracks in a weathered door. The katana's subtle thrum deepens, echoing faintly against the rising tempo of your pulse. Fingers tighten around the worn leather sheath, the rough grain a tangible anchor to this fragile moment, suspended between attention and stillness. The blade hums like a low chant, a thread of sound barely audible, blending with the rustle of shifting leaves and the soft sigh of wind passing far above your reach. Your gaze lifts to the path curling beyond a thicket, where the last remnants of mist cling to twisted roots and fallen branches like ghostly veils. The earth here is damp and soft, marked by faint footprints, barely pressed into the mud, as if someone passed, careful and swift, under cover of shadow. You hesitate, the promise of something watching, folding into your breath as you step closer. Toes wet against cold stone, hidden beneath a tapestry of fallen leaves. A shiver snakes down your spine. The scent of iron sharpens at the edges of the dampness, a faint, acrid trace that seems to hover just out of reach. The forest breathes around you, full and deep, its slow pulse threading through the brittle bark and silent foliage. A whisper of movement flickers once more in the corner of your eye, and your heart catches, steady but quickening. Your grip tightens, steel humming faintly in response. The forest shifts again, an indiscernible shape pressing just beyond the veil of dawn, something watching but unwilling to step into the light. It remains a silent specter, a tremor beneath the trees, charged with the weight of something old and patient. You take a measured breath, bending your focus inward. The faint chill clings to your skin, but a slow warmth blooms beneath your ribs. Steady, insistent, like the steady beat of drums, echoing through the twilight. Your fingertips brush the worn lacquer of the blade. Soft earth. You pause beside a fallen log, moss crawling soft and green along its length. Fingers glide over the damp surface, cool and yielding beneath your touch. The texture is simple, real, a moment of quiet grounding amidst the forest's restless watch. The katana's murmur lessens, folding back into a low hum, a fragile lullaby carried on the breeze that stirs the delicate lace of mist at your feet. But the moment is brief. A faint glimmer flashes from deeper within the thicket, a fleeting sharpness that catches the light like a silver shard. Your breath stalls, heart tightening in your chest, as the forest's murmur folds inward, tightening its grip around the fragile dawn. The shadow shifts again, slower now, deliberate. Whatever watches from the gloom waits patiently, eyes unseen but keen, poised on the edge of your awareness. The cold air presses heavy against your skin, carrying the sharp edge of smoke and iron, tangling with the forest's deep scent of moss and earth. You lower your gaze, just as a soft, almost inaudible crack resonates nearby, a slender branch yielding beneath a cautious weight. Your body stills, every muscle coiled beneath your kimono, blending with the rhythm of the forest's quiet breath. A spark of motion dances just beyond view, vague and fleeting. What the blade responds sharply, a high, ringing note that slices clean through the silence. The katana's whisper twists into a song of warning, wrapping tight around your senses like a spider's silk. Your breath falters, heart bare to the razor edge of anticipation. The forest watches, waits, and something unseen prepares to step from shadow toward dawn. Your breath holds, a thin thread stretched tight between the pulse in your chest and the shifting shadows just beyond your gaze. The forest leans in closer, a slow and patient weight pressing through the damp air, heavy with the scent of moss and pine needles softened by the morning mist. The faint iron tang lingers, like a secret whispered too close to your skin, blending with the acrid smoke that curls just beyond the veil of dew. Your fingers tighten around the hilt, the lacquered wood cool beneath your palm, grounding you to the present as the katana hums low, a restless song just beneath hearing, vibrating through your veins like a second heartbeat. Your feet move with deliberate slowness, pressing carefully into the yielding earth, softened by frost overnight. The dampness sucks quietly at your sandals, pulling at your balance with each meticulous step. You glance upward. Slivers of pale sky scatter between the twisted branches, fragmented shards of early light that dance briefly across the slick bark. The shadows retreat and then advance, as if the forest breathes with a rhythm of its own, inhaling and exhaling around you in slow, measured waves. Every leaf, every droplet caught in the bending branches refracts the fragile dawn, shimmering faintly like scattered memories in a stream. Ahead, the path narrows beneath an arching tangle of limbs, worn smooth where time and weather have slowly bled the colors from the wood. The scent of damp earth deepens here, mixed with the faint fragrance of crushed leaves, sharp and bitter on your tongue. Your mouth tastes dry, your breath colder now as you edge forward, muscles tense but slow to climb the gradient toward the next curve in the trail. A quiet, rhythmic tapping sounds somewhere to your left, soft, deliberate, like a slow drumbeat against hollow wood. Your gaze flickers to the origin, and the shadows stir again, indistinct forms slipping between trees with careful grace. You don't blink. The katana at your side whispers louder, threads of its curse weaving tight around your nerves, a silent warning you cannot ignore. You step lightly, careful not to disturb the brittle leaves, each movement measured as though the forest itself might unravel with the faintest misstep. A thin layer of frost crunches quietly beneath your sandals, and a slow shiver snakes down your spine, not from the cold, but the pure weight of being watched. Unseen eyes tracing each breath like fragile glass. You pause beneath an ancient cedar. The tree holds a steady stillness, and you lean into its solid presence, letting the muted sounds of the forest settle around your ears. The faint drip of water from a rotting leaf echoes softly, a single note in the forest's unbroken song. For a moment, the katana's murmur softens, a gentle lull threading through the mist like the hush of waking. But movement returns, subtle and insistent. You turn slowly, eyes sharp and searching, fingers brushing the hilt as the blade pulses beneath your touch. The shifting shape nearly disappears behind a twisted root, a dark ripple of motion that refuses to become form, yet it lingers like a promise unspoken. The cold air carries a sharper scent now, iron again, but beneath it, something briny and raw, like the trace of blood long dried into the earth. Your breath catches. The forest pulls taut around you, the fragile light dimming as the mist thickens, coiling around gnarled branches and curling close to your skin like the fingers of an old ghost. The katana's whisper crescendos, an unyielding thread pulling tight beneath your ribs, and you slide the blade free with a faint rustle, the steel flashing ghost-like in the thin dawn. You grip it firmly, the cold metal an anchor in the swirling haze, and the forest seems to lean back as if acknowledging the shift. A silent pact sealed between hunter and hunted. Each step forward sends a soft crunch across the frost-hardened earth, the sound swallowed quickly by the thick quiet. A faint breeze stirs, carrying with it the scent of smoke and damp leaves, weaving into the harsher tang of iron as you Pass beneath low-hanging branches, heavy with moisture that drips, slow drops to the ground. Your eyes catch a glimpse of something glinting beside the roots where shadows deepen. A small fragment of shattered wood, or perhaps bone, the shape unnatural in this slow, timeless hollow. The pulse in your veins quickens, the katana vibrating softly against your grip as the forest's breath shifts with you in a slow, insistent rhythm. The mist parts briefly like a curtain as a swift, shadowed figure darts through the underbrush, vanishing before you can focus fully. The sharpness returns, slicing through the fragile morning with a piercing clarity that freezes the blood beneath your skin. You steady yourself against a mossy stone, heart pounding beneath your kimono like a distant drum. The katana hums a steady chant, as though guiding you toward the next fold of this silent tapestry. The dawn light fractures into slivers, ending over the forest floor in fractured beams that shimmer faintly against your skin. Then, just as you prepare to move forward once more, a voice, barely more than the rustling of leaves, slips through the tangled branches. It is not spoken, not quite, but an echo on the wind, a tremor that reverberates deep inside your chest. The forest waits, vast and patient, hovering on the edge of shadow and light. And in that fleeting breath between moments, you sense it clearly, a presence not bound by flesh or time, watching from the silent folds of dawn, waiting to reveal itself. Your grip tightens on the katana, the blade's whisper rising into a sharp, unyielding note, threading through the still air like a razor-thin wire. The forest contracts around you. The unseen watcher steps closer, its silhouette finally poised on the threshold between the lingering mist and the fragile sunlit world beyond. You stand motionless beneath the brittle arch of woven branches, the faintest glimmer of dawn teasing the edges of the fog. The forest breathes a slow, deliberate exhale, heavy with the scent of damp earth and rotting leaves. The faint iron tang lingers like a latent threat, weaving itself through the cool air that presses close against your skin. Every breath you take is sharp, each inhale drawing in the quiet weight of anticipation that settles deep in your chest. Your fingertips curl around the katana's hilt, the smooth lacquer worn by years of restless grip. The blade hums beneath your skin, a low murmur threading through your nerves like a secret. Chant. It does not demand action, but waits, patient and relentless, mirroring the slow, curling mist that shifts through the roots at your feet. The wet soil yields softly beneath your sandals, cool and sullen, anchoring your presence to the cold ground. A shadow shifts again, with a motion so subtle it might have been imagined. The brush of a leaf against another, or the faint dance of wind whispering through brittle branches. You do not move. Instead, your eyes narrow, tracing the spaces where sunlight and shadow fracture the dim light. The forest seems to lean closer, branches trembling as if listening to the ancient rhythm pulsing beneath the land. You let the silence stretch, measured and unyielding, like the slow drip of water from a moss-clad stone. The distant hollow call of a woodpecker skitters through the canopy, a fragile thread of sound barely piercing the weight of the morning. Your breath slows, mirroring the forest's pulse, calm and steady, in spite of the lurking unease, entwined with every step you might take next. The katana's whisper softens, but does not disappear. It is a subtle rhythm now, coaxing your senses awake and steady, threading around a cold fire just beneath your ribs. You draw a slow, deliberate breath, tasting the bitter chill of frost, mingled with the fading smoke that curls low over the earth like a waning sigh. Each inhale feels sharp and pure, the cold air cradling the faintest trace of firewood, ash, and moss. Your gaze shifts downward to where the path narrows, twists, beneath thick branches heavy with dew, translucent beads trembling before they fall. The ground is slick with moisture, the stones beneath your feet slick and dark. You pause to steady yourself, flattening your palm against the rough bark of a towering cedar. Its surface is cold and ridged, steady beneath your trembling fingers, a bastion of enduring silence in a world tilting on the edge of something unseen. Around you, the forest hums with quiet life, the scratch of a small creature scuttling over fallen leaves, the soft rustle of fur against bark. Yet the presence lingers, quiet and patient, lurking just beyond the shimmer of dawn's shattered light. Your heart beats low and steady, matching the whisper that coils beneath your ribs. The blade thrums again, its voice rising in a fragile crescendo, threading sharp through the mist. You grip the katana's hilt tighter, feeling the cold weight settle firm in your hand. With deliberate slowness, you draw the blade free. The steel catches, the pale light flickering like a ghost's breath. The etched runes along the blade gleam faintly, ancient symbols humming softly as if alive with memory. You rise onto the balls of your feet, every sense stretched taut. The mist swirls at your ankles, curling over the earth in slow, silk-like folds. The scent of iron sharpens, mingling with the sharp sweetness of crushed leaves and wet wood. A sudden, near-silent snap, like the yielding of a brittle twig, ripples through the stillness. Your eyes snap toward the sound, scanning the depths of shadow and light. Stillness answers, save for the hesitant flicker of movement deep in the brush. Your breath catches quietly, each pulse of the katana reverberating through your palm like a tether to the present. The forest waits with you, an ancient patience folding its weight around your shoulders, pressing chill. And heavy, yet oddly familiar. The path curves suddenly, leading you beneath a woven canopy of limbs. Stray beams of warming sunlight break through, trembling over glistening moss, casting fleeting patches of amber amidst the green and gray. You step forward, slow and sure, the soft crunch of leaves and frost whispering beneath your sandals. The delicate drip of water echoes, a steady cadence, like the slow, unbreaking beat of time itself. Your fingertips trace the cragged bark of a fallen limb, moss thick and cool beneath your touch. The katana's song softens into a gentle murmur, folding back into silence as you lower the blade near your side. A flicker of warmth climbs your spine, like embers glowing quietly beneath cold ash. For a breath, the forest sighs with you, dense and watchful. Yet the moment shudders suddenly, with a flash, a gleam not cast by your blade but something deeper in the shadowed thicket. Sharp, cold, unnatural. Your heart leaps, breath hitching on a thread of fear that coils in your chest. The mist thickens, swallowing the fading light like a slow tide, and shapes begin to bend and twist just beyond the fragile veil. A slow, deliberate movement emerges, a shadow drifting with a weight that bends the light, a presence folding in upon itself just at the forest's edge. The katana hums sharp, cutting clean through the delicate quiet, its breath threading steel and warning into your veins. You hold fast, the air thick with unseen watches and quiet breaths. The forest is silent no longer, watching with patient, ancient eyes as the figure steps from the mist. You stand there beneath the fragile arch of branches, the weight of the katana steady in your grasp, its whispered song threading through your nerves with a low, insistent pulse. Around you, the mist coils like smoke, caught in slow descent, soft and thick as it folds over the damp earth. The pale wash of dawn slips through the tangled canopy, casting fractured patterns that dance lightly across the stones beneath your feet. Each breath you take tastes cold and sharp, biting at your throat with the chill of impending winter. The forest presses close, ancient and still, as if watching through a haze of secrets. The scent of moss and decaying leaves rises like a muted hymn, mixing with the faint trace of burning wood, lingering like a hidden sorrow that never quite fades. Your eyes narrow into the shadowed depths, the shifting shapes folding and faltering with every slow movement. Somewhere beyond the veiled line of sight, the faint snap of a twig slices through the stillness, brief, deliberate, like the cautious exhale of a predator unseen. You remain unmoving, the leather of your sheath rough against your palm as the katana hums a bell-like whisper. The blade feels alive beneath your fingers, a restless companion wrapped tight against your side, its ancient runes glowing faintly with a pale light only you seem to perceive. The cursed weight anchors your senses, pulling the world into a slow pulse, where every breath and every footfall carries the weight of something waiting and watching. Your sandals press softly into the yielding moss, each step measured with the reverence of ritual. The earth's dampness drains slowly into your soles, cold and unyielding, a silent contrast to the flicker of warmth blooming deep beneath your breastbone. You move forward slowly now, the path narrowing between towering cedars whose twisted roots writhe like silent sentinels. The gnarled limbs reach skyward, stripped bare against the charcoal wash of dawn. Shadows curl and fold, twisting like restless smoke pulled into delicate patterns. Each fragment of light catches on wet bark or glistening fungi, a brief flash of silver or emerald tendrils clinging to the rough wood. The forest hums beneath your feet, a slow, ceaseless rhythm that matches the steady cadence in your chest. The katana's murmur swells gently, weaving through the cold air, a careful thread pulled taut beneath your skin. It warns without words, a pulse of tension sharpened by the scent of iron faint on the breeze, distinct and raw, an odor that pricks the edge of your awareness like a whispered threat. The forest's breath folds in rhythm with yours, a patient dance of shadows and light held in quiet balance. Ahead, the trail bends sharply around a fallen log covered thick in moss. The green is vivid against the muted palette of the undergrowth, a splash of life in the dim morning light. You reach out, fingers trembling as they graze the cool surface, textured with the slow decay of seasons past. The roughness grounds you, solid and unfailing beneath your touch, while the mist swirls low, creeping softly over your feet like the fading ghost of a forgotten dream. A gradual cracking noise punctuates the silence, thin and tentative, as a fragile branch splinters, falling through the dense air and landing with a muted crunch on the leaf-strewn floor. Your body tightens, your gaze sharpens to a shard of shadow flickering just beyond the curve of the trail. Too quick, too deliberate to be a trick of light or drifting fog. You halt, breath drawn slow and deep, tasting the bitter bite of cold frost mixed with the lingering smoke of burned cedar. The katana hums sharply, a blade singing into the quiet. Threads of warning twisting around your ribs. Fingers tighten on the hilt, knuckles whitening as tension coils through your muscles. Ready, but restrained. A faint movement stirs once more near the base of a swollen root. A swaying shadow dissolving and reforming in an unsteady rhythm. The forest leans in, the air contracting like a held breath, pressuring the space between heartbeats. Your gaze sweeps slowly, mapping every bare branch, every shifting twig, every retracted ray of early sun. The scent of iron sharpens again, mingling with the damp sweetness of crushed leaves and the sharp edge of cold smoke. The path ahead narrows further, curling beneath a tangled canopy that filters sunlight into fractured shards. Dew trembles lazily on leaves, ready to fall in quiet droplets that echo softly in the stillness. Your footsteps resume, deliberate and light, each imprint fading slowly into the moss and dirt. The katana's murmur eases, folding into a low, constant hum like the distant call of a bell carried far on cold wind. You pause at the base of an ancient cedar, the bark rough and weathered beneath your palm, carrying the weight of centuries and silent storms. The tree stands unmoving, a sturdy guardian, holding time steady amidst the ever-shifting tide of shadow and light. You lean into its cold strength, drawing in a slow, calming breath, while the hush of the forest seems to settle deeper around you. Then, unexpectedly, a flicker, a sharp, sudden gleam catches your eye from beneath a twisted bramble. Not the gleam of your blade, but something cold and unnatural, slicing into the delicate calm like a shard of ice. Your heart quickens, breath catching briefly as the mist thickens suddenly, swallowing the light with a slow, rolling weight. Shapes blur and bend just beyond the threshold where your vision strains, a twisted silhouette poised between shadow and dawn. The katana shivers in your hand, the blade's sharp whisper escalating, slicing the quiet with an urgent and precise tone. The forest constricts silently, as though drawing a line, an invisible boundary you feel pressing against your chest, heavy and inexorable. You fix the present steps forward slowly, deliberate, veiled in the gray folds of mist. The faint scent of iron mingles with something darker and colder, an ancient promise suspended in the breath before night. And in that shadowed moment, your breath falters, the forest falling utterly silent. The watcher reveals itself. You stand motionless beneath the fragile arch of woven branches, the mist swirling in slow eddies around your ankles, like restless spirits trailing unseen paths. The katana hums low against your palm, a restless murmur drawing tremulous lines beneath your skin, threading tension through muscle and bone alike. The forest's breath is steady and slow, as if it holds a secret, waiting patiently beneath the dense canopy of gnarled limbs and shadow. The cold taste of earth and damp wood clings to your tongue each time you draw a measured breath, a bitter sharpness that ripples through the quiet air. The fading light filters weakly through the fragile fog, casting soft shards of gray and pale amber over slick leaves and dark moss, turning the world into a trembling tapestry of muted colors and shifting shapes. Beneath your feet, the ground yields softly, a damp cushion of rotting leaves and cool soil that carries whispers of seasons past. A delicate drip trails rhythmically somewhere nearby, the faint plip of water falling from brittle leaves heavy with dew. It is a slow, insistent echo, keeping time with your deliberate footsteps as you press forward along the winding path. The scent of iron rises faintly, sharp and acrid, edged with something older, smoke lingering from forgotten fires, and something darker, like an old wound beneath the earth. Your gaze narrows, eyes tracing the delicate interlace of branches above, where pale shards of morning light fracture in slow motion. The forest holds you in its silent grip, ancient and watchful, folding you tight within its cool embrace. Each breath you take is a whispered thread woven into the tapestry of this stillness, fragile and taut. The sudden snap, soft, brittle, of a twig breaking under cautious weight, pulls your senses taut as string. Time slows as your eyes lock on to the flicker of shifting shadow just beyond the curve of the path. You hold your breath, the pulse of your heart syncing with the faint, steady hum vibrating through the katana's blade. The forest leans closer with you, shadows swirling and folding like smoke caught in a slow spiral. Your fingers close lightly around the katana's hilt, the aged leather rough and grounding, even as the blade vibrates softly like a living thing beneath your touch. You draw the sword free with a muted sigh, the cold steel catching the fragile hints of dawn, glinting pale and sharp as it slices through the dim. Ancient runes trace along its length, faintly glowing, a delicate language whispered in light beneath your gaze. A shiver threads down your spine, cold and electric. You press forward with cautious steps, toes brushing wet stones slick with moss, each contact a quiet kiss of the earth. The iron scent grows stronger now, layering against the damp aroma of pine and crushed leaves. Your breath forms tiny clouds, the mist weaving around your head like a slow ghost, wrapping you in its tight, cool fold. A rustle stirs at the edge of your vision, slight, deliberate, and your gaze snaps toward the dark thicket. The blur of shadow shifts and tightens, refusing to settle into form. The forest exhales slowly, cold air rippling through tangled branches, carrying with it a faint, acrid burn, like smoldering ash hidden deep beneath wet soil. The katana's whisper hovers on the edge of hearing, a thread pulled tight through your thoughts. The low hum grows sharper, rising into a sharp note as the weight of unseen eyes presses closer. You lower the sword slightly, hand sliding along the weathered bark of a towering cedar. Its rough surface is cool and steady beneath your palm, a silent sentinel holding firm against the creeping chill. The path sways gently beneath your feet, twisting and narrowing beneath knotted branches heavy with moisture. Dew beads tremble like fragile jewels, poised to fall with the next breath. The faint drip continues, a slow rhythm that echoes through the quiet as you move deeper. Each step unfolding the forest's tangled story. A sudden flicker of silver catches your eye, not from your blade, but from a shape deeper in the shadows. Fast, sharp, unsettling. Your heart tightens inside your chest, breath hitching as the mist thickens, swallowing light like a slow tide. The soft crack of a slender twig breaking nearby punctuates the heavy silence, a sound pregnant with intent. The shifting shadow steps forward cautiously, the outline blurred but deliberate, obscured by trembling currents of gray mist. The katana's murmur rises into a clear, urgent note, slicing clean through the still air. The forest contracts subtly around you, pressing close like a living thing. Weight against your skin. Your muscles coil, tension rolling like a slow wave beneath your kimono, anchoring you in the moment where shadow and dawn meet. The scent sharpens, iron mingled with something smoky and raw, like faint blood long soaked into rotten leaves. The watcher waits in silence, a poised figure balancing just beyond the fragile veil. You raise the blade slowly, a pale ribbon of steel, cutting a clean line through the mist. Your breath falls heavy and slow, eyes fixed on the shifting shape where the forest's secrets gather like storm clouds ready to break. The katana vibrates in your hand, its hum a steady call, both warning and invitation. Then, as the first true ray of sunlight bursts through the canopy, a low, resonant voice rises, not spoken, but felt, threading its way through the trees, echoing against your ribs like a pulse. The watcher's silhouette solidifies, stepping fully into the stark, fractured light, revealing a form both familiar and foreign, its eyes glowing with a cold fire that burns through the dawn. The forest holds its breath as you stand face to face, the katana singing sharp between you. And in that suspended moment, the fragile cusp between shadow and day, you know the fragile thread of hope that dawn once offered is about to unravel into something far darker. You hold your breath as the shadowed figure steps fully from the mist, taking shape before your eyes. Not a specter, but a man, his form worn by time and trials, yet his gaze steady, holding the weight of countless dawns. His eyes meet yours, calm, but carrying the silent echo of shared histories, a recognition that bends the moment into fragile understanding. The forest stills, the heavy silence folding around you both like a cloak, as if time itself hesitates to break. The katana's low hum softens, settling into a quiet rhythm, no longer a restless pulse, but a tether, binding your fates in this ancient place. His voice, when it comes, is a whisper that seems to rise from the earth beneath your feet, measured, respectful. You have carried the burden long, he says. The blade holds its curse, but also its purpose. You nod slowly, feeling the weight of your journey align with this encounter. The cursed katana was never just a weapon. It was a legacy, a bond between the living and those who came before, etched into your bones like this. Slow, steady heartbeat of the woods. Together, you lower the blade, the faint glimmer of dawn catching the edge in a soft glow. The man steps closer, hands open, offering not threat, but closure. It is as if the forest exhales with you, releasing the quiet tension that had bound the morning. Outside, the village begins to stir, tentative at first, then fuller. The distant murmur of voices, the rhythmic scrape of wooden wheels on dirt, the soft calls of children. The hush that once pressed heavy now lifts, replaced by the warm breath of life returning. You sense the pulse of the land reborn, the ancient tension finally uncoiling. The man's gaze lingers a moment longer, then he turns, stepping back into the thick embrace of the trees. His outline blurs into the fog and shadows, fading like a half-remembered dream, leaving you with the lingering touch of peace. You draw the katana back into its sheath, the lacquer cool and comforting beneath your fingers. No longer a weight to bear, but a quiet companion. The blade's whispers fade into a steady murmur, like an old song brushed by the wind, carrying stories now given rest. Turning back to the path, you inhale deeply. The cold air fills your lungs with the sharp scent of pine and ash, mingling with the soft warmth of morning light. The moss beneath your sandals feels tender, welcoming, as if the earth had remembered your steps and softened to greet you. The village sunrises no longer carry that sharp edge of dread. Instead, the familiar sounds bring a gentle reassurance, a chorus of resilience. Faces light with cautious smiles, eyes reflecting. A quiet hope that is settled where fear once took root. You walk slowly back toward the heart of the village, every step measured, savoring the stillness that follows the storm. The katana's song is now a lullaby, a soft hum threading through the dawn, curling softly around your thoughts. As you pass beneath the ancient cedars, their towering limbs no longer ominous, but protective, you feel the day's fragility and strength entwined. A balance found only when shadows yield to light. The forest no longer presses in, but stretches open. A vast sanctuary where past and present breathe in harmony. Settling at the threshold of your wooden hut, you pause, hands resting lightly on the weathered frame. The first true sun floods the space with warm amber rays, chasing the remaining chill from the air. Breath slow and steady, you close your eyes for a moment and listen. The gentle creak of timber, the soft rustle of leaves, the faint laughter echoing down the lane. The cursed blade rests quiet now, its story woven into the tapestry you carry within. The heavy silence that held your spine has transformed, not into absence, but into a calm filled with meaning, a delicate thread of peace stretching into the horizon. You settle once more onto the tatami, the familiar texture, grounding you like an old friend's embrace. The ritual of morning resumes, slower now. Each movement, a quiet conversation with the day. The tea's warmth blossoms in your palms, a small comfort that steadies the heart and soothes frayed nerves. Outside, life hums with delicate persistence, a gentle promise whispered beneath the skies, that even amid shadow and curse, dawn always returns. The blade's whisper is soft now, a fading echo that invites rest rather than unrest. You lean back, the weight of the journey finally easing, and let the quiet wrap around you. The mist outside begins to retreat, unraveling like a slow, silken veil. Your breath matches the easing rhythm of the forest, slow and deep, pulsing with the steady beat of renewal. The day has turned. The dawn that once held a fragile threat now cradles a gentle hope. And in this moment, the world exhales with you. Close your eyes. Let your thoughts drift with the soft rustle of leaves and fading echoes of the Katana's song. A lullaby carried on the morning breeze. Rest now. The story has found its end, and peace, long awaited, settles softly like snowfall on quiet earth.